I believe that something that's real, that goes into your work, gives it a weight and an evidence, and it ties it to place and space in a way that makes it unique. So I am always trying to do a unique something to bring in the history, to bring in something that isn't just decor, but has story and has meaning to people, even if they don't really know.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Charles River Museum of Industry and Innovation. My name is Steve Guerrero, and I'm the Director of Education here at the museum. Thanks for braving the rain. It's my honor to formally introduce this evening's Mill Talk. Tonight's program is both a reflection on our history and an exploration of innovation at the intersection of design and technology. We are gathered here in our museum's main gallery, which was once the power plant of the Boston Manufacturing Company. Francis Cabot Lowell and his associates built the world's first integrated factory here on this site in 1814. A cotton textile mill, it kicked off the Industrial Revolution at scale from here in Waltham, and its success was replicated in mill towns all over New England. Tonight, we're excited to have Oren Sherman, an alumnus and professor specializing in design, marketing, and branding at the renowned Rhode Island School of Design. Oren has partnered with corporations across the country, developing original artwork and licensed collections that capture a brand's identity. His work is sophisticated, contemporary, and utterly unique, standing at the cutting edge where art meets commerce. Oren's versatility and visual intelligence inform his distinctive approach. His art powers brand, creating a multi-level subliminal experience that resonates as an unspoken message everywhere the environment touches the customer. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Oren Sherman for tonight's talk. Oren.
Thank you so much for coming. I am so honored to be here tonight. I'm asked to speak frequently on my work, but when I was asked to talk on innovation, I was so excited because innovation is a spectrum, and tonight is just a moment in time, and everything that came before tonight led to tonight, and it will go on after that. And I realized in coming here that so much of what I do owes to the power loom more than any way I realized. So let's just get into it. Thanks again. New technology inspires designers, and design innovation drives business. So in the art world, I'm more of a maker and a producer than I am a fine artist that just works for themselves. I work in industry, and what better place than the Museum of Industry and Innovation to talk. So into this world of technology and design and innovation and business is this one magic word: engagement. I'm an artist, and this is where I live. How we artists engage with people is through their work. And being here tonight is a wonderful thing, but my work is the thing that talks to people. So we're going to start with a little brief history of pattern, and I'm bringing you up to the present. So Paisley, this is one of my Paisleys. So Paisley, the pattern is the bote. It's a stylized floral, and it started in Persia in the 6th century, and then it came to bloom in India in the 11th century. It's considered to be the only unisex floral pattern, which is kind of amazing. And it is for the Indian people, a self-portrait and part of their brand. So my question was, how did a pattern come from India in the 11th century to the American West in the 18th century? And the simple answer is on the cotton. It was hijacked on the cotton. So on the left, we have a picture of 2 Hispanic cowboys in the American West in the 1800s. And on the right, a contemporary photo of the classic cowboy. And you can't think of the classic cowboy without thinking of the bandana. But people don't really think that that pattern started in 11th century in India and made its way around the world. So it traveled. It traveled from India. It was gifted to Empress Josephine on the right, so you see the Paisley, and then on the The right is a painting by John Singer Sargent called The Paisley Shawl, which was a painting of his beautiful niece, and you see the paisley. It was a pattern that became the rage of people from great wealth. The Paisley shawl was a very expensive item. It was the rage in England, very, very expensive, woven of cashmere. And then it still exists, but patterns slumber, and Paisley went to sleep for 50 years. And you see it on men's ties and maybe in the linings of things. It's still a luxury fabric, but it slept for 50 years. I think it's so beautiful that it had to have a long sleep. And then 50 years later, it woke up. So the Beatles went to India in the 60s and 70s, and this is probably when I became acquainted with Paisley. I was a kid at the time. So it was different then. Paisley was a symbol of rebellion. So it was worn by young people to rebel against what came before. And you'll see that it took on the colors of the 70s. So as patterns travel, they change. They take on the times of where they live. So here we have a Paisley, the Bhuta again, in the 70s colors. The Beatles with their famous Paisley Rolls Royce. And on the lower left is the artist Prince's album Paisley Park that was released in the 80s that referenced Paisley in the 70s. And then it went to sleep again for 40 years. So with respect to the people before me, I woke it up. So this is my Paisley. I think that I fell into pattern for no reason that I can really figure out. I'm not a pattern designer. I don't really understand repeats. I fell in love with pattern just as an art form. And my innovation perhaps was that rather than doing pattern in a repeat, I did it as something to step into, because for me, it was an entire world. And in thinking about it, so you see it's a Paisley, but it's blown out and you can walk into it. There was no business behind this. There was no thought that this would be a living or, a money-making thing for me. As an artist, I always follow my curiosity to where it takes, with the belief and hope that it'll bring me to the next place, and it's never been wrong. But also, I think in doing pattern for me personally, the act of actually organizing pattern is so soothing and organizing that it makes me feel kind of wonderful. But I also have this terrible habit of, as soon as I'm organized, I throw myself into chaos. So the chaos and the organization of doing pattern is part of my life and the way I do things. And my husband right there, who's a psychotherapist, can answer more perhaps about why I do this, but you can talk to him after the show. So the tension of the organization and the chaos is something that follows my work through. So I was obsessed with pattern. I don't know why, it just came over me. I wasn't trying to be innovative, I was just following my heart. So I started marrying patterns together. So this is a Paisley and a lace that's married together. So I'm combining things and I'm searching through pattern history, and I really didn't know what I was doing. I was just following my interests and my desires to wherever that would take me. This is a fleur-de-lis. You probably recognize it. It's on brocades. It's still a very popular fabric. You see it on luxury brocades all the time. And I saw it and I realized, wait a minute, this is the pattern that was on my parents' wallpaper when I was growing up. And I realized that pattern had history, and I of course knew it, but it just kind of sunk in. So without thinking that I was going to do it, I reinvented it. So this is one of the first pieces I did when I left the world of narrative to do patterns. So you can recognize the fleur-de-lis, but I'm doing something that you can walk into and experience as a space. And this is probably the first one I did. So you can see again, it's the fleur-de-lis. I never really studied patterns, so I didn't know what rules to follow. So I never realized I was breaking the rules because I really didn't know them. So I just kind of did what I felt like doing. I'm a color expert, which is just kind of one of the things I do. I was born with it, I take no credit. I'm in the 1% of people with an elevated color vision. And you might think that's an exciting thing, but really what it is I walk around all the time and I look at a color and I think, it's just this much off. And I know why it's this much off. So that particular skill that I have goes into my patterns and my work. This is an Islamic pattern in eggplant and gold and pink. So I'm, without realizing it, reinventing and hopefully energizing historical pattern. And this is an Islamic fantasia. Aqua and pink are not colors you're supposed to use together, but I love taking that kind of thing on, and I don't think I've ever met a pink I can't make friends with. So at this point, I realize I'm kind of onto something here. I know my work is different, but I had no sense of where it was going to live and what was going to happen. And then this happened. I was approached by Mohawk, the carpet company, and they asked if I would turn all my work into carpets. So I said to them, I have no idea how carpet is designed. And they said, we do. We're just looking for new ideas. So in doing it, you see we released our first two patterns. That's East Meets West at the top and Mad for Plaid, which is a marriage of plaid and floral on the bottom. But when I saw how carpet was designed, that's a palm set. And a palm set is all these little tufts of wool. And if you mix a yellow with a blue, you get a green. And then if you put a brown into it, you get an olive green. Or if you put a different color into it, it'll shift. So I realized it's exactly how I mix paint. So I understood how I could make color because I saw the palm set and I thought, okay, I understand how to do this. I'm just painting with wool. So then this happened. I got a license to do, a license means a design license with a company, and they asked if they could put my work on wall covering. So this is the Paisley wall covering. This is our kitchen. I think I might be the only person that actually installed it. But it's a great pattern. It was very innovative. This was the first digital collection of wall covering that was released. So it was about 10 years ago, and the digital collection meant that the patterns could be rescaled and resized and recolored custom for each person. And we were a little ahead of the time. Now it's all over the place, but at the time we were a little bit too soon. But so I went from being an artist that painted and did all this other work to having my work on all these surfaces. This is a trompe l'oeil lace, and it's my favorite pattern because when it's installed, it's so successful that people walk up to the wall and they knock the wall because it doesn't look flat. So when you're a 2D artist, you're taking a flat space and trying to make it look not flat. We call it dematerializing the wall. So that's what I was doing. This pink and red florals in honor of my mother, who was a landscape designer and was famous for not only her opinions, but wearing bright red all the time. And here it is married to a plaid. I tell people that I left the two patterns in my studio at night and they had a baby. So again, I was just doing what seemed like the right thing to me. I wasn't breaking a rule or following a rule. I was just in love with pattern. And on the left is the design, the plaid and floral, and on the right is the carpet install. And this changed my life because it was on a go-see to an architecture firm in Boston, Elkis Manfredi, where I worked, and now work as a consultant, that they had just installed this pattern on a job. And one of the designers said, I just use this. So they asked if I would come to work for them. So at age 57, I took my first job. And I said to my partner here, well, what's it like going to work? Is there do you bring lunch? Is there a water cooler? Do you have work friends? And he said, you're never going to make it. So this was my first job. This is the old Imperial Palace in Las Vegas, the ugliest hotel on the Strip. Caesars bought it and they turned it into the Quad. And they wanted to redo it, but they didn't have a big budget. So in the world of facades, in Las Vegas especially, glass skins and the digital facades and all the, the busy, bright things in Las Vegas that attract attention are very expensive to do. So all we had to do was paint, which is the least expensive thing. So the business model that I'm following is that all these engagements that I'm doing and all the color that I can bring into people's lives, it's generally just paint, which is the least expensive thing you can do. So I work with the team now, which I hadn't done, and we had this amazing idea, let's paint it plaid. So I looked at the hotel and I thought, we're in. So there's the facade of the hotel, and 5 colors of blue and pop colors that were done on the perpendicular elevations. And there I am, my first week in the job painting. I think I wore a tie because I thought you were supposed to wear a tie to work. And I, of course, got paint on it the first day, and that was the end of it. But so there it is being painted, and there it is done. So all this is paint. And, it had a colored light on it, and it's an amazing thing. They probably used about 1 million gallons of paint doing it, and it was incredibly exciting for me because I was working on a scale that I'd never worked before. I was used to publishing, and I was used to, my work being in magazines and catalog covers and, prints and posters, but I had never done anything like this on this scale. So I was hooked. So as you walk around the building, because we painted all the pop colors on different sides, it changed. So it's never the same from any viewing point. It's always a little different from every side. So it became like an abstract painting. And I also got to do the carpets. And there it is, the Plaid Hotel. So if you go to Las Vegas, please visit it. That's the Ferris wheel, and that's looking through the Ferris wheel to the lit Plaid Hotel. And all it is paint and light. So I'm in. My second job is the Verb, which some people probably know in Boston. It was a falling down old Howard Johnson's on the Fenway, right near where I live. And Steve Samuels of Samuels Associates bought it, and anyone else would have taken it down. But it turned out to be this cool 50s building, and they wanted to save it. So they brought me in on the job, and when I looked at it, the windows were color and clear in a standard pattern, but they'd been smashed over the years, and they replaced the windows with clear glass. So it lost its organized pattern, and I liked the look of it so much that I kept the syncopation, and we reinstalled the windows. They're all new, of course, but I kept the pattern of the smashed windows, and we used colored window film. The business model on colored window film is the cheapest thing in the world. So we did all this on a very low budget, and they're called the Mondrian windows, and it won every award in the world, and it was incredibly engaging. So every one of them is a little bit different. And then this wonderful thing happened, which was unexpected. When the light comes in certain times of day, the windows project color into the hallways. And if you look at the hallways, they're just all gray. But that color did this thing just at an hour in the morning. And it was this dazzling, wonderful thing that I didn't expect. So I'm thinking not only can my work be on a surface, but it can actually work into the room. So when people ask me how I ended up in architecture, I came in on the surfaces, the carpeting, the wall covering, the things that architects need. This is my favorite part. It's the skylight, and we painted it pink. And you could see that I only filmed a couple of the triangular windows. So during the day when the sun comes through, it projects in the lobby and it moves its way across the floor. And it's really like a free piece of art, a free carpet. Okay, ink block. This is the site of the old Boston Herald. The story on it was that we tried to save the site. Most people here probably don't remember the Boston Herald, but it was a big newspaper when I was a kid. And we came up with a color palette that was based on the funnies, which was the Sunday color funnies, which when I was a kid was a really big deal to get. So all the colors were based on the Sunday funnies. And a young person won't know that, but I believe that something that's real, that goes into your work, gives it a weight and an evidence, and it ties it to place and space in a way that makes it unique. So I am always trying to do a unique something to bring in the history, to bring in something that isn't just decor, but has story and has meaning to people, even if they don't really know. So without knowing it, these are all the comic book colors. So I'm a color strategist, so I'm always looking for a reason. There's so many colors out there, how do you make a decision? This is a loft on D Street. When you drive by at night, you see it, it's lit up at night. And this is the photo shoot, and in the middle is a family portrait. On to Harvard. This was a wonderful project. It was the Soldiers Field Park dorms that were designed by Ben Thompson in the 1970s. And what I brought in was a kind of a groovy 1970s feel of 12 colors that ran the whole project. They were pre-digital 1970s colors that I have to admit I remember. So that drove the whole project. These are the study rooms, and what you're looking at is a design that is the landscape plan of the original site. So without realizing it, everything in there relates to the site, relates to the story, relates to the history. And who says I can't color it however I want? This part is the easy part. All the make ready and the preparation and everything I do, the color just takes me 10 minutes. This is the gym and the abstract paintings as they look like on the wall covering. They're just wall covering. And what you're looking at is the old floor plans of the building. So I took the floor plans, I blew them up oversized, I plugged in my 12 colors, and all of these ideas and spaces and pieces of history moved their way through the building. And someone in the graduate school that's 25 years old will never know that, but everything has a reason for being. And this is the children's playroom, my dream children's playroom growing up, which I didn't get. And yeah, and the chairs in a circle, they're all about engagement. And that's what we try to do in architecture, is engage. And the idea that kids would sit in a circle and have reading is just really wonderful to me. So I'm an engagement junkie, and the thing about architecture was my work could affect people when I'm not around, and when years later when I'm not around, it'll still be here, and I'll hopefully be getting something from the spaces that I helped design and feel a little bit better, a little more excited. It's creating community. So this is my last architecture project that I'm going to show, and then I'm going to move to the future. So this is at 500 Boylston Street. It's in Boston. It's a beautiful Robert Stern building, and it had a very unloved atrium. And my boss and friend, Elizabeth Lowry, said to me, just do something, which is my favorite thing. And I'm sure she lived to regret it. So I went in, and I went back to the office, and she said, what are we going to do? I said, we're painting it. She said, you're painting it? I said, yup. And she said, when you paint that woodwork, it's never coming back. I said, yup. And she said, and she looked me right in the eye. If the client hates it, it's on you. And I said, I did not buckle. I said, we're painting it. So the scheme was all that stained, horrible woodwork. The bottom of the first floor was marble. So I matched 3 colors of paint to the marble and brought it all the way up. So it looks like Vincenza, and it looks like marble when you're in there, but all it is paint. This is my best 3-color paint job I've ever done, and the least expensive thing that ever made a space look like marble. So I didn't get fired, and she told me, now I want you to do the most beautiful rug that has ever been done. So there's the space done. I sometimes have meetings there because I'm so happy about it. So there's the rug design. It's a no-repeat rug, which means because I don't understand repeats. So think of it as a giant painting. It's overscale, and the secret story behind it was it's a laurel leaf pattern that was a tribute to Daphne and Apollo because the space is right where the marathon ends. And the marathon wreath is the laurel wreath, kind of an unknown thing. But I like to put these secret stories into my work because it makes me want to do it. It gives it a reason to be. So that's the design for it. And the story was that the client said they hate color. And the project manager, like, just what I want to hear. We hate color. And the project manager said that they're never accepting color. And I did it in browns, and I did it in sage green, and I did it in gray, and I kept bringing it to Elizabeth, and she kept saying, I hate it, it's just sad. So I got so mad, I went back to my desk one day, and I did this in 45 minutes, and I just said, this is it, this is what it should be. And I left, and the client accepted it, and it became this. It is the most beautiful rug I've ever done and probably will done. It's hand woven in England. It's 20 by 50 feet, and it's painting in wool. And the cool thing about it is that it's a different experience everywhere you sit. I wanted the rug to have movement, you know, not just to be a pattern, something you don't think about it. I wanted it to be a piece of art that grounded the space. So everywhere you sit, you get a different experience. And when we finished it, they said, let's show this off in a way that we've never done before. So we had this crazy idea to stage a ballet. So we hired dancers from the Boston Ballet, and we staged a ballet in the space that we designed, and it was the greatest experience of my whole life. And here's the ballet. Watch for my cameo. Thank you. It was really a wonderful project. I got to reimagine a room, make a beautiful space, stage a ballet, and do everything that I didn't dream that I would get to do. And it was also the beginning of the end, because it was everything, I'd done everything that I could do. I dematerialized a wall. I'd done everything I could do in flat space, and was able to have all my dreams come true. And then this happened. I got the chance to give a TEDx talk from my friend Matt Clark, Narrowland, who's here tonight. Thank you, Matt. And he said to me something interesting. He said, what are you doing that's new? And all the time when people talk to me, they don't ask me what I did or how I got here. They say, what's new? And when Stephen asked me to talk, he said the same thing, what's new? So I didn't realize that this talk would be the changing point for me, where a new life began. So I didn't know it at the time, but I was about to throw my life into absolute, complete, and total chaos. At the architecture firm, I had written on a piece of paper, I want to walk through walls, and I folded it up and I put it in my wallet, and it sat there for 3 years. And I didn't even know what it would mean or what I would do. But in architecture, there's a program called Rhino. And what it does is it builds models in 3D space. And it's a very complicated thing, and I'm not a tech person. But in looking at it, what they do with Rhino is a building that's designed can be 3D printed, and the firm makes cities, and they make little buildings, and they put them in the cities, and they move them around. And it's a fascinating thing. But I learned it had another purpose. I could actually use it to design pattern in 3D space. And when I realized that, my life completely changed. So this is how it goes. What you see on the left is the model, is the Rhino model, and then as it develops into something real, transparency. So this all exists in 3D space. And this is the output from the model. And these things aren't really thought of as, Rhino wasn't designed to do art. It's not an art-making technology. It's a model building technology. So perhaps the innovation was I was using it to do something that it wasn't really designed for. So I'm probably the dumbest Rhino person in the world, but I'm an artist that found this thing, and I can't look back. So I took this, and I did what I'm good at. I added color. So that is this plus this. So all this is in 3D space. You can actually, when working on it, you can walk around it, and you can see it from all these different planes. And I hope this is going to be the rest of my life, because I'm so hooked that I can't look back. So here's how it works. You're traveling through a 3D model in space. So the thing to tell you about this is that at this point, I left the past completely behind. The world of the repeat and how pattern has been designed for centuries from the wood block. That's what a repeat is from. It's a block that's printed one after the other. And pattern repeats owed to the wood block. So at this moment, the past was over. Pattern history, everything that came before, and I started looking forward. Designing in 3D space. What you saw, we formed a company, it's called Liminal, Matt and I, and what you saw are designs. That 20-second video is 1,000 patterns that are endlessly scalable and changeable in size. So this very powerful equipment has allowed me to do things that I never dreamed were possible, and I'm just beginning. Okay, so I'm going to announce something that's completely new, that I've never announced before. So when people ask me, what are you doing? This is what I'm doing. It's an art-driven business idea, and it's the first time I've shown it publicly. The idea is that every brand wants to get into 3D space. They want to get in the metasphere, but they really don't know what to do when they go there. So I thought, what if I put all these things together? And I thought about this as a branding business idea. And Matt and I devised this, and everyone's going to see this for the first time. So Nike, the most recognizable logo in the world. What you probably don't know is that it's Nike's wing, and it symbolizes speed and velocity. This is Nike's billion-dollar invention. It's called Flyknit. So we took Flyknit, so back to the loom. and we knitted the logo. So there's the Nike logo knitted in 3D space, based on Flyknit, their innovation. And now you're flying through it. So logos are these flat things that sit on a page and do nothing. So imagine being able to fly through and go on this journey through with Nike, this engagement that they engage in many ways, but not this way, not yet. So in this video, this engagement, there's probably 700 images that can be used for textiles, that can be used for anything. So because Rhino, you can change materials, so I built it in glass. So there's the Nike logo in glass. And here are some of the close-ups of what we can do. So imagine this on clothing, imagine it on shoes, imagine it in the stores. All this artwork is for the brand, built from the brand as an engagement with people. So everything that I love, color, engagement with people, pattern, all came together in a business idea for the brand. But I'm an artist, and as an artist, I have to do things that are beautiful as they can, and I was so hooked in this. And poor Matt, he'd come back to work Monday morning, and I would have sent him like 50 pieces that I worked on over the weekend, and I would say, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And it took about a year for me really to get my hands on it, and I feel like I'm just beginning. So this is my 7th career, and I'm really excited about that, and everything is about the future. Okay, so one more thing. So Nike is a case study, and Burberry is a case study. So when you think about Burberry, you of course think about their famous plaid. And they put it on everything. This is Burberry on Instagram. And there are all their plaids from 1920. So this is Burberry weaving on the loom. So it occurred to me that before Burberry was this, a textile, it existed in 3D space. So there it actually is. And when Stephen talked about the loom, I don't think he thought that maybe we'd come to this. So I built it as a 3D model. So this is the Burberry plaid as a model. And then it spins. So when you think about this, you never really realize that it existed before it existed as a pattern, as an engagement in 3D space, as a moving thing woven on a loom. And it isn't amazing that I can be here in this place, which is the site of the first mechanical loom, that all the cotton that we wear, all the color and all the patterns on our cotton clothing were made possible for the average person from this place, right here, right now. So it is incredible for me to be on the spectrum of technology in this place where it all started, moving forward, doing something that really I owed to the loom more than I realized. The artwork is, I think, some of the best things I've ever done. And I can't wait to get to work in the morning and try something else and spin it around and play. So it's as if Burberry didn't realize all these things were existing behind the pattern. So imagine a Burberry coat lined with one of these plaids, or imagine walking into the Burberry store and seeing this huge projected, this engagement with a brand that's never quite happened like this. That's my favorite one. Maybe someday we'll get to buy it on a scarf. So I did this just a week ago because Burberry opened a store in Singapore. And they used the blue plaid, so I decided to redo it in blue. there are thousands and thousands and thousands of patterns that I can do from this one model. So here I am, back to the loom. And this is where Stephen first saw my work, and he said, "It looks like a loom." And I said, "There's a story here." So here I am in the very spot where it started, and innovation doesn't end. You know, everything that came before, as I said, this is just a moment in time. And I'm going to move forward, and innovation is going to move forward, and all these things, when you say the Museum of Innovation, you tend to think it's something in the past, but it's something that is always moving from the past to the present for the future. And this night is just a moment in time. So as an artist, your work is only finished when someone takes it into their life and makes it their own. As I said, I'm an engagement junkie, and making connections with people is what I do. And what I realized in putting together this show is that I owe my whole interest in pattern to the surfaces, to the cotton that was woven by the mechanical loom. And that cotton traveled across the world, and now I can travel on those surfaces without the cotton, but without this, I could never have done this. So this is a gift from me. If you use your phone and take a picture, you can have it, and you can take it home, and you can watch it spin, and you can see how it all works. So I hope you enjoy it. That's all I have to say, and thank you for coming. Well, that is the big question. So this is all released, and now the big job is to find the person at the companies to see this work, because I know this will connect when I can get to see that person. So that's the plan. Well, it's a good question. Tech is not an idea. It's a tool, and it's a tool for people to then turn it into an idea and let it grow into something. So I'm not afraid of technology. So, you know, from when I learned Photoshop, that was a tool that I learned that helped me work faster. But really, it's what I've always done, which is color and pattern and engagement. It's just a tool that's allowed me to work in 3D space and make connections that I haven't been able to make before. I'm still the same person. I've just got a really powerful car. God, that's a fantastic question. You're always learning. And I think a career takes three things. It takes talent, it takes curiosity, and it takes resiliency. And talent is the least important of the three. So if you remain curious and you're always moving forward, you're always learning from what you did before, and you're moving on to the next thing. A show like this is not the greatest hits. It's, you know, everything I've learned to get to this point, and now I'm going to move forward. So I've learned a lot, and it's the nice thing about being my age, and you have so much to learn, but you're way smarter than me when I was your age, so you're going to be way ahead of me when you get to be my age, which I know is going to happen because we live a really long time. Any other questions? And for me, creativity is not owned by artists. It's owned by anyone that said, what if I just did it this way? What if I didn't follow the rules? What if I used this food in my cooking, or this spice? Or what if I thought a little bit differently from what the rules are? And it's chaotic because you enter into a place where you don't have a solution. But I've learned in working with people like Pearl and working with great people, and I think the answer to your question is really when you work with other really smart people, it pushes you forward, and you enter this chaotic space where you don't know what the solution is, but you just keep walking knowing that it'll come to you, because it always does. So anytime you have that thought, what if we do it this way? Don't tempt down that thought, because if that cake burns because you did something wrong, it means you're on the trajectory to doing it better the next time, and it'll come to something. So there's a lot of failure, and what you see is a couple of years worth of work and a lot of just mind-numbingly me thinking, I will never get this. And then when it happens, it happens. So have the courage to enter a space where you don't know what the solution is, because things will happen, I promise.
All right, thank you so much.